Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tiny Studio. My name is Nail and this is Simply Nail's Tiny Studio. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. This is a vintage coach obsession video, but actually this is part 2 of a discussion that we were having the other day about how to purchase pre-loved vintage coach bags. The first video we talked about how to discern or authenticate a vintage coach bag at the thrift store. Of course, it's a whole entirely different thing when you're looking online to purchase a pre-loved vintage coach bag. It's very, very different. And it can be so painful. Ooh. And I have to say that in my experience, though, the most painful thing is to buy a vintage coach bag or any vintage bag from the thrift store or consignment shop or the Salvation Army or the Goodwill, and then you realize that you purchased a dupe, because then you've held it, you've looked at it, you've inspected it in the store, but obviously there are some things that you did not know to help you tell the difference between a dupe and a fake. So I must say that purchasing a vintage coach bag or attempting to buy a vintage coach bag, from the store, it's a little bit more painful than actually, buying online. And the thing is that when you buy a bag from your local thrift store, they don't accept returns. It is what it is, right? However, you have a little bit protection online when you purchase a fake, and you're able to get your money back depending on the type of pre-loved market you are shopping on. And that does make a huge difference, and it makes you a little bit less apprehensive about going on the search for your favorite unicorn vintage coach bag, or if you're just a newbie, a vintage coach bag, period. Just having that added protection, the added layer of protection, especially when you're first starting out. You need to look for pre-loved markets that will allow you to return the bag if it's fake, or report it and return and receive a refund if the bag is indeed fake. And like I said, that's a protection, a layer of protection that you don't necessarily get at your local Salvation Army. Right? And trust me, I know all about purchasing dupe bags from from the thrift store. It's not cool. It's not cool, but with knowledge is power, right? So, maybe about almost a week ago, I purchased a vintage Coach convertible clutch on the pre-loved market. And actually, I purchased it on eBay. There are several pre-loved markets that you can go to that are on that you can use at your fingertips. There is, Poshmark, you have Mercari, you have Facebook Marketplace, and you have eBay, you have Etsy as well. So I have purchased my vintage coach collection from Etsy and from eBay. So I'm really confident and comfortable with purchasing on those two pre-loved markets. But you have to be careful, because if you are not looking closely, you may in fact go home with a dupe, or you may purchase something that you may not. It might be like a really, really messed up kind of thing. And let's talk about it in this video. So, as I like to say, I have a budget when it comes to purchasing vintage items, especially vintage handbags, and my budget is a limited one because, as you see, I'm a fiber artist as well. So, oh, a lot of my money goes to that yarn stash over there. That's not the only stash. I have another stash on the side of my beautiful tiny studio chair on both sides. I then have a stash on the opposite side of the tiny studio. That's where my money be going. I know it's not right, and I know it's not okay, but guess what? That's just the way it is, and that's how it goes here in the tiny studio. So since we already know that a bulk of my budget goes over here to my yarn stash, and I better get this correct. Let me just do justice. Let me just be honest. Let me be honest. My budget just doesn't simply go to the yarn. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. It also goes to buying semi-precious gemstones that I use when I design jewelry. Yes, it does. To things like this, which is lapis and I think it's tourmaline. Yes, I designed this and I put it together. These are teardrop, lapis, and tourmaline earrings. So yes, a lot of my budget goes to that. It goes to crystals and things of that nature. So that's just who I am. But with that being said, the money that I have set aside for vintage Coach bags, I don't want a dupe. I do not want a fake. And let me tell you, when it comes to vintage Coach, you're going to have two kind of fakes. You're going to have the fake that's really, really bad, or you're going to get a fake that's really, really good. And out here in the pre-loved market, you're going to find a lot of fakes that are really, really good. And of course, they will have to be if they have survived 25 plus years, right? Exactly. So let's say you're online and you're on eBay, Mercari. Let's just say eBay, Etsy. Let's say okay, we'll throw in Poshmark. We'll throw in Mercari. Let's say you're on one of those sites and you see a vintage Coach bag that you like. Okay? How do you know it's a vintage bag? Well, here are some things that you should look for. Usually the seller is going to post pictures in the ad that of the bag they want to sell. Hopefully the pictures, hopefully there will be more than 3 pictures. I'm gonna tell you, because if there are only 3 pictures, don't buy from that seller. And the reason why I say that is because most sellers on the pre-loved market know that if they want to get a sale, they need to show us, the person that's looking online, they need to show us and give us a really good visual of the bag, because we are not there in person to see it up close, to touch it, feel it, smell on it. We're not able to do that. We only have our 2 eyes and our third eye of discernment, or intuitive eye, to be able to assess whether or not it's real. So many sellers will have maybe about 5 to 10 different pictures of the bag. So with this bag, when I looked at it online, there were about 10 pictures to inform me what the bag looks like. And the key parts of the bag that I was of interest of, well, I wanted to see the whole bag. But what caught my eye was the front, the back, the bottom, and this is a convertible clutch. It doesn't have feet. The corners, the strap, of which I have removed, what am I looking for on the strap from the pictures? Well, I want to see if there are any splits in the strap. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the hardware. I'm looking at the hang tag or the key fob. So as you see right there, that's how many pictures. That's about 4 or 5 pictures right there in itself. Another thing that I'm looking at from the pictures that the seller will have provided or should provide is I'm looking at the hardware. I'm also checking out the hardware from the picture of the open bag. I'm looking at the condition of the leather, the raw leather. And hopefully, if this is a knowledgeable Coach pre-loved seller, then they are also going to have a picture of the back pocket, back slip pocket, which also features the what? That features the story patch or the creed. They're going to post a picture of the story patch or creed clearly for a potential buyer to see. So when I saw this bag, and there were about 10 pictures or so, what was I looking for when I saw this bag? Well, I already knew that it was an authentic Coach because I could just tell by the leather. Yes, the leather is kind of, not in the best condition. But as I looked at it, I knew that I could possibly restore it. I looked at the back of the bag because there was extensive scarring or scratches on the back, and I wanted to see exactly what those scratches were. I was concerned about it. I was also concerned, I wanted to look at the corners. So the corners are very important. And why are the corners important? Well, for me, the corners are important because I want to know if there needs to be an addition to the knowledge or the education I already have when it comes to restoring Coach or vintage Coach bags. So the corners for me are very important because I am not yet at the level where I understand fully how to fill in the leather if there's a hole there and the cord is showing. I'm not so sure about how to repair it just yet. I'm learning, but I'm not really 100% just yet. If the bag needs to be painted, I need to know what the corners look like. I need to know what how much restoration is going to go into this bag. Now, if you're not a person who is into restoring or rehabbing vintage Coach bags, then what you are going to be looking for might be slightly different. You're going to be looking at the condition overall. You're going to be checking out for the same thing I was checking out as far as scratches and veins and whatnot. But if it's a bag that's it's already in decent condition, you're going to be looking to make sure that what you see on my bag is not necessarily happening on the bag that you're looking at, especially if you're not trying to restore it. You're going to make sure that the bottom of the bag, you're going to make sure that the seams and that the stitching is intact. You're going to want to make sure that there isn't any rips or tears in the leather. Because if there are rips and tears in the leather, then that's an additional expense that you're going to have to factor in. So that means when you purchase the bag, or if the bag is up for bidding, or if you want to make make an offer to the seller, then you need to look at those things, because if there is extensive wear and tear that you're not able to repair yourself, then you're going to have to go to a craftsman or a cobbler to have that fixed, and that's an additional expense. So you have to factor in that when you are looking online for a vintage Coach bag, or a vintage bag of any sort. You have to look at those things. What you're also going to look at is you're going to look at the hardware. I think I've said that before. These are called D-rings. So you want to check and see what condition your D-ring is, because if it's not in a good condition, they're going to have to be replaced, which is an added expense. So hopefully the pictures will be able to show you what the condition is of the D-rings that holds your strap. And another thing that's important as you are looking online, as you're looking at a picture of a bag that you would like to possibly purchase, if you have any questions, if you need to see things, you need clarification, you need better pictures, always send a question or a request to the seller. Now, if the seller does not get back to you within within at least 48 hours, then that's a bag you're going to have to pass up. It's really not worth pulling the trigger on it, because the unknown will be just in your face once you receive the package, and then you'll be a little disheartened, you'll be discouraged, and your buying experience is going to be poor. So you have to make sure that if you have any questions, and a lot of sellers on eBay and on Etsy, they will let you know if you have questions. Please feel free to let them know. So do that. If you have questions, it's always best, especially online, it's always best to ask the seller before you go ahead and say, I want to buy this. Because 9 times out of 10, what you see is what you're going to get. But if you have an untrained eye, what you see is what you get could cost you money. And that's why it's really, really important that when you are thinking about purchasing online, you make sure there are certain things in place, such as a return policy, a refund policy. All of those things are very important when you are dealing in the pre-loved market. You also, from the pictures, you want to check out the stitching. What does the stitching look like? Is the stitching straight? Does it look neat? Is there any loose threads or pulling going on in the stitching? You want to look at that. When you look inside the bag, hopefully the seller will allow you to look, will have pictures of the inside of the bag. What does the inside of the bag look like? Is there a lot of debris? Are there things going on inside the bag? Now, here's the thing about this particular convertible clutch. There were a lot of pictures, and there were a good amount of pictures of the inside of the bag. But when I received the bag and I really did a thorough investigation, on the inside of this bag, there is a ink stain. I did not see that in the pictures. So some things you will be able to discern from looking at the pictures, but you'll only really be able to see it with your physical eyes upon the package reaching you, and then you'll get a chance to inspect it further to see. And that's another thing about buying from buying on a pre-loved market, is that the pictures should basically describe the package that you receive in the mail, because it is the seller. The seller's integrity is on the line. And if your bag is misrepresented, then you can report them and you can get a refund. And so that's why it's very important that when you're shopping with an online seller, that you look and see what their reviews say. You look and see how many sales they have made. And when you look at the reviews, don't just read all the good things, read all of the bad things as well. And that way you'll be able to make an informed decision. Also, like I said, note that the seller could put up 20 pictures of the bag. 20 pictures of the bag. But still, you will not truly know what it's going to look like until it arrives in your hands. That's a fact. That's what makes buying online a little bit different than being at the thrift store or the consignment store or the Salvation Army or the Goodwill. Makes a difference. Now, for me, as far as this ink in the bag is concerned, it's just a small spot. So I'm probably going to get some hydrogen peroxide or something of the nature and a Q-tip and see if I can get that stain up. If I can't, then that's fine. I really don't care. It doesn't make me, it doesn't, it's not gonna sink my battleship or anything like that. I don't care, because I'm going to clean this bag up anyway, and I'm going to wear her, and that's fine. But like I said, in the pictures that was shown, I didn't see that ink spot, and probably more than likely the seller didn't notice it either because of where the ink spot is actually at. So I had to do a little inspection, and that's when I found the ink spot. But as I said, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Basically, I knew the bag was going to come with some issues, and I am definitely prepared to take on the issues. I don't have a problem with that. So I'm hoping that I covered the most important parts. Oh, no, I didn't. I left something out. On the inside of the bag, as I said before, you're going to see a creed or a story patch, as some say. Now, if your story patch, at the bottom of it, you're going to see a number. And it's going to say number, blah, 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 blah. Right? Now, if your bag was made after 1994, then those numbers and letters are significant because they let you know what the style number is, but they also let you know what year it was made. It lets you know what month it was made and the year, plus the plant or factory that it was created in. So after 1994, those numbers at the bottom of the creed or the story patch are very, very important. However, if you find a bag that's pre-creed and it has the numbers underneath it, that is still important. And there are a few sites that you can go on. All you have to do is Google and you can look up the number, and they will tell you, because there are different variations of the serial number on bags from Coach bags pre 1994, and the format of the numbers is what gives away the authenticity, and it basically gives away what year it could have possibly been made in. That is very, very key. But as I said in my previous video, the story patch is very, very important. For what reason? Because the story patch is going to basically let you know from looking online if the bag is authentic. You're going to notice the cartouche. What's a cartouche? This is a cartouche. The cartouche is the beautiful rectangle thing that the Coach name is inside of. That's your cartouche, okay? So it's very important to be able to look at the cartouche and know whether or not your bag, from the pictures, whether or not your bag is real or not. One of the key factors is whether or not the cartouche is centered, whether or not the letters are centered inside of the cartouche, whether or not your letter A, which is one of the most important things inside that Coach cartouche, making sure that it is straight up and down A with a point at the top. Now trust me, I have had some dupes, and the A did not look like this. In fact, the A had a flat top. It's true. It's really, really true. So you have to be careful of when you're online. Those are the things that you have to look for. And yes, there are lots of dupes online. Yes, because if you have a lot of dupes at the thrift store and at the Goodwill, of course you know you're going to have dupes online. And I think that the dupes online, sellers who and I don't want to say all sellers know that they're posting dupes, because there are a lot of people out here who are, flipping these bags, and they think that they are, credible, that they're authentic. And in actuality, based on their knowledge, to them, they may be. But if you are a vintage Coach fanatic like myself, you know that there are certain things that you need to look for to make sure that it's truly authentic. And a lot of sellers don't know that. On the flip side, there are also sellers who don't care. Okay, it says Coach, COACH, and we're just going to sell this. And buyer beware. It's one of those situations. But even though that is the case, as a buyer, you have to have that extra layer of protection. So make sure you buy from a site where you will be able to be refunded your money. If you're buying from a site where your money is there's not a refund possible, then you have to take the hit if you purchase a dupe. So what's going to happen to her? Well, I'm going to clean her up. She is going to be restored. She seems to be in pretty good condition. and the bones of her is really good. So I'm excited, and I believe that she's going to turn out really well. But you will get a chance to see the after results of me, or the after pics. This is the before. This is the before. And so in another week and a half, you will get to see the after. Get excited. I'm excited. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in the tiny studio. And if you have some questions for me, go ahead and leave a comment at the bottom of this video, and I will do my best to answer them for you. And if you enjoy watching videos like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And when you do, you will be notified as to when I pop into the tiny studio to talk about vintage Coach bags. So I think there's going to be one more video coming where I'm going to talk about authenticating, and what my process was for choosing this beautiful convertible clutch. And she is in the British tan. And yes, she's in rough shape. But I'm going to tell you in another video why I chose her to become an adoptee into my vintage Coach collection. So thank you so much for hanging out with me in the tiny studio. I have some things I need to be doing. I will talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in, okay? Yeah, I need some tea. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.